going there, peeps? Phil here from MTG Kiwi Philosophy here again, bringing you yet another deck tech. This is my Jund Gateway to Hell, and we have a beautiful build around, and that is 4 copies of Thran's Temporal Gateway. This 4-drop legendary artifact is fantastic. You pay 4 and then you tap it, and you may put a historic permanent from your hand onto the battlefield. Now that is fantastic. So we're going to overload this deck with lots of beautiful big historic babies. And let's get it underway, but first of all, we need to make sure we can have another way of getting these big bombs into play. And so we're going to go through all of our land cards that are going to help us get our land drops and also help us clog up the board until we can get to that mid game. And we're going to go with 3 copies of Drover of the Mighty, 4 copies of Skittering Surveyor, and 4 copies of Ranging Raptors. Now, the Drover of the Mighty is a fantastic card. It's a 2-drop 1/1, but if we control another dinosaur, it gets +2/+2, and it can add 1 mana of any color to our pool, which is fantastic for us. The Skittering Surveyor is going to be fantastic regardless of what mana we have in play, and search for those cards that we need. It is only a 1/2, but however, it does its job by just searching for the land we need. And finally, the Ranging Raptors are fantastic. They're a 3-drop for 2/3 that has Enrage, so whenever it's dealt damage, we get to search our library for a basic land card and put it into play tapped, and then shuffle our library, which is awesome. So these 3 cards together are really going to help us with our fixing, and that's pretty much all we really need to worry about at this point for our fixing, because with 4 copies of the Temporal Gateway, we're going to be able to put just about anything on hand into play as long as we get to that magic number 4. Okay, well let's move on to the first of our creatures that we're going to be sticking in, and that is, we're going with 2 copies of Etali Primal Storm. Now Etali is a 6-drop, 6/6 legendary creature, so it's got that historic thing going for it. And when Etali attacks, exile the top card of each player's library, and you may play that card without paying its mana cost. So this is really fantastic. If Etali can get into play and we can get it to swing, we're going to be able to have 2 free plays from the top of either library from ours and our opponents, which is really awesome. Etali is a super powerful card, and it's always a target for our opponents to get off the board as soon as they can afford to. Now Etali is not going to be the only threat for our opponents. They're going to also have to deal with 2 copies of Ghalta, Primal Hunger. This 12-drop 12/12 legendary dinosaur has trample, but he costs X less, where X is equal to the creature's power that are in play that we control. So if we have Etali in play, or any of our other creatures, even say for example we've got the Drover of the Mighty, a Ranging Raptor, and a Skittering Surveyor, we're already looking at, what's that, 6 power as well. So it's only going to cost us 6 to get Ghalta into play. That's pretty amazing. Alright, and once again, let's move on to the next card, and that is 2 copies of Ripjaw Raptor. Now the Ripjaw Raptor's in here for a few reasons, because it's a 4/5 4-drop, but also that it has Enrage. Whenever it's dealt damage, we can draw a card. So this is going to be a good little card engine for us. It's going to help us along the way. If we have to trade, that's fine. It's going to help advance the board by getting us more cards in our hand, which is really awesome as well. The only downside to the Ripjaw Raptor is it's not a historic card, but it is a very powerful card at number 4 as well for our casting cost. So if you think about what we've gone through now, we've got Etali, we've got Ghalta, and we've also got the Ripjaw. Now we've got 3 dinosaurs here for a reason, plus the Ranging Raptors, plus the Drover of the Mighty, because we're going to try and tie up the synergy with the Thran's Temple Gateway with 1 copy of Gishath, the Sun Avatar. Yeah, this 8-drop bad boy isn't Jund, however, does it really matter if we have the Temple Gateway in play? Dumping a 7/6 Trample Vigilance Haste creature into play, that whenever it deals damage to a player, we get to search the top 7 cards of our library for dinosaurs. And any of those dinosaurs get to come into play, which is really awesome. So we've got a good chance of getting some Ranging Raptors, Etali, Ghalta, and also a Ripjaw Raptor into play. And that is really good for us. Now moving on to our last of our big bomb creatures, and we're going to go with 2 copies of Darigaaz, Reincarnated. Now this Jund 7/7 flying trample haste bad boy is insane. He is really great because as soon as we can get him into play from the gateway, he can swing straight away. And what's better than having a 7/7 flyer with trample? and if he does get destroyed, he just goes and gets exiled, and then he sits there with his 3 egg counters, and then, each upkeep we remove an egg counter, and then he comes back to play. So it's not terrible. The only thing we really got to worry about with Darigaaz is if he does get exiled, but the chance of that is very small. So these big creatures are fantastic, and what is one thing that we could possibly do to help get our creatures into play and attacking straight away? Well, that's easy. We're going to go with 2 copies of Garna the Bloodflame. Yeah, this 5-drop 3/3 flash creature, that's right, flash, gives all our other creatures haste. Not only that, when the Bloodflame enters the battlefield, we can return to our hand a creature that was put into the graveyard from play this turn, which is awesome for us. So if our opponent wants to destroy one of our creatures at the end of their turn, we can then flash Garna in, return it back to our hand, and then smash it into play with the Temple Gateway the following turn, and hello, they've all got haste. And I'll tell you what, there's nothing better than having an Etali or a Darigaaz, a Ghalta, a Ripjaw Raptor. These all having haste is going to be fantastic for us, and it's going to be very, very hard for our opponents to deal with. Alright, now we're going to need a couple more cards just to help synergize our deck, and also make sure that we've got some really vicious synergies going on to make our opponents think that their life is not worth living. And we're going to go with 2 copies of Phyrexian Scriptures, 2 copies of Yawgmoth's Vile Offering, and 2 copies of Vraska, Relic Seeker. Now, the Phyrexian Scriptures is a 4-drop double black. Yeah, it's a saga, that's right. So it's also historic. Put a +1 counter on target creature you control that becomes an artifact in addition to its other type. Second trigger, destroy all non-artifact creatures. Third trigger, exile cards from all of opponents' graveyards. So the fantastic thing is we've already got one creature which is an artifact, which is the Skittering Surveyor, and we can turn something like the Ghalta or even Garna into a 4/4 artifact creature until the end of the turn. It is really awesome for us, because if we can keep Garna in play, then everything we dump into play after that is going to be really, really hard to deal with. And of course, Yawgmoth's Vile Offering is another awesome card. It's a 5-drop legendary sorcery, and we can put one target creature or planeswalker from our graveyard onto the battlefield under our control and destroy up to one target creature or planeswalker. And then we have the exile Yawgmoth's Vile Offering, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, say for example they destroy our Vraska, or we destroy one of their planeswalkers, or we, either or. I mean, the fact is that we're going to have big creatures in our graveyard to be able to return, and we've got lots of legendary and historic things that we can use to be able to bring it back with the Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. And finally, Vraska is also very handy as well, because Vraska is, once again, it's historic and it's legendary. So we can dump that into play with the Temporal Gateway, and it's a 6-drop with 6 loyalty. The abilities are really handy, being able to pump out 2/2 Menace Pirates. Destroying a creature, artifact or enchantment is really, really cool for us as well. And of course the ulti, being able to put someone on 1 life total, is really, really vicious. And this is going to be hard for our opponents to deal with, because at the end of the day we can be able to recycle Vraska quite easily. We can use her as a removal card, and it's going to be hard for our opponents to be able to swing in with such big creatures on our side anyway. And the other way around it is, if they want to swing in, we can just chump with some of our creatures that we've used to ramp up to our mana, because we don't really need them anymore and they've done their job. Alright. Okay, so let's wrap it up with just a little bit of removal, and we're going to go with 3 copies of Bombard. Bombard is in there because it's a 3-drop instant speed, deals 4 damage to target creatures. So it's a reasonably low cost, and it deals high damage to a creature. And it's going to help us with the early game, because I don't think we're going to have trouble with our late game. Alright, well let's talk about our lands, and then we'll move into our sideboard. Okay, so with our lands, we want to go with 4 copies of Dragonskull Summit, 4 copies of Woodland Cemetery, 2 copies of Memorial to Folly. Now, we want the Memorial to Folly in here for the same reason that we always have it in our decks, because we want another way of returning a creature from our graveyard to play. And say, for example, our opponents have removed quite a bit of our big bombs, and, we've got a land sitting there that could just do the same thing, return it to play, and then we get it back into play. Alright, and then we're going to talk about our even split land between our swamps, mountains, and forests, and they are... We're going to go with 5 forests, 5 mountains, and 4 swamps. Okay, that's our land, so let's move on to our sideboard. Knowing that we have Gishath in our deck, we want to have a way that we can possibly extend the way we can protect Thran's Temple Gateway, but also get more dinosaurs. And that would be going with 3 copies of Thrashing Brontodon. Now we want the Thrashing Brontodon in there so that we can protect the Temple Gateway from the likes of Ixalan's Binding, which is going to be a real pain in the ass, or anything that may be kind of taking the Temple Gateway out of play. We also got to remember our opponents may have some naturalizers, so we're going to need to think about that as well. So we're definitely going with 3 copies of the Thrashing Brontodon because it's also a dinosaur and it's reasonably powered, being 3/4. Okay, and let's move on to the next card, and we're going to go with 2 more copies of Phyrexian Scriptures, because the Phyrexian Scriptures is fantastic and it works really well with the Temple Gateway. We don't need the double black if we've got the Gateway, we just need the 4 mana and then we can smash it into play, and we know we've got some safe creatures there. Let's slam in another big boy, and yeah, it's not Jund colors, but what does it matter when you have a Gateway? We're going to go with 1 copy of Zacama, Primal, Calamity. Yeah, 9-drop, 9/9, Vigilance, Reach, Trample is fantastic. But having its other abilities by paying 3 and dealing 3 to target creature, destroying an artifact or enchantment, which is fantastic for us. It's going to get rid of the Immortal Sun. It's going to get rid of any of the Ixalan's Binding. And also we can gain life from it. It just seems like the perfect card for this deck. Alright, let's move on to the next card. Okay, let's talk about how we're going to be able to return the Gateway from our graveyard if our opponent has destroyed it. We're going to go with 4 copies of Nature's Spiral. It's a 2-drop sorcery speed, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. See, this is fantastic. This is what we need. A sideboard that's going to make sure that we can solidify our combos in the game and make sure that if someone's sideboarding in something to remove our gameplay, then we need to be able to make sure that we can counter that by constantly returning it. It will make things a little bit slower, but the likeliness of us getting our big creatures in the play is going to be a lot more faster. Alright, let's move on to the next card, and that is 4 copies of Recollect. Recollect is a fantastic card for our deck. Being able to pay 3 and return a card, any card, from our graveyard to our hand is going to be awesome for us, especially with the Temple Gateway. Even if it is the Temple Gateway, it's really good for us. It could be a piece of removal, it could be Phyrexian Scriptures, it could be Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. Yeah, the options are fantastic for us. Alright, well let's move on to the last card in our deck, and we're going to go with 1 more copy of Vraska, Relic Seeker. Okay, well, that's it here for me at MTG Kiwi Philosophy. I'm Phil. I hope you've enjoyed this brew. It's a bit of an out there one, but from people that have seen me play it and played it themselves, they've really enjoyed it, and I hope you do too. Alright, well I guess I'll catch you on the flip side. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, share, tell your friends. Get me out there. Ciao.